Hello, I'm Simon Whistler, and in the video today we're looking at the top 10 hypothetical countries of the near future. Number 10. Independent Scotland.
In 2014, Scottish voters came within a hair's breadth of choosing to split Scotland from the UK, creating a new state. Although over 55% of Scots ultimately elected to stay within the Union, the forces of nationalism had been unleashed. In the 2015 UK general election, the Scottish National Party, SNP, took nearly every seat in Scotland, becoming the third largest party in the Union. Ever since, the threat of a second referendum has loomed large. The biggest trigger for Scottish independence is the UK's recent vote to leave the EU. Since Britain decided to quit and given Scotland's desire to stay in the EU, the SNP has promised another referendum within 2 years. This makes Scotland the most likely new country of the next decade.
Number 9. Independent London.
Scotland isn't the only part of the UK analysts think might have a chance of splitting in the future. Welcome to London, the UK capital and one of the most dynamic cities on Earth. With a population of over 8 million, more than Norway or Denmark, and a land area far in excess of city-states like Singapore, London is already culturally and economically detached from the nation around it. Nearly 40% of residents are immigrants. Arts and culture are anchored here. The city provides nearly a quarter of the UK's entire GDP. Likely, the nation of London would be like Singapore, but with a social conscience, a powerful financial centre dominated by leftish politics.
Number 8. Kurdistan.
The aftermath of World War I saw plenty of winners and losers. Some of the biggest losers of all were the Kurds, an ethnic group from the Middle East. They found their homeland split between Iraq, Syria, and Turkey. Since then, they've been fighting for an independent Kurdish state, leading to a civil war in Turkey and attempted genocide against the Kurds in Iraq. Until recently, it looked like the Kurdish struggle was doomed to never end. Then came the Syrian civil war and the rise of ISIS. With Kurds acting as the US's greatest allies in the region, many are now talking openly of Kurdish statehood. Kurdish forces have seized territory ISIS took from Iraq and refused to hand it back to the Iraqis. Large swaths of Syria are under Kurdish control. The leader of Iraqi Kurdistan has said that world leaders need to accept that his people are building a state.
Number 7. Catalonia.
Catalonia is Spain's answer to Scotland and London, all rolled into one restive province. Home to Barcelona and the economic engine of Spain, Catalonia is diverse, wealthy, and in possession of its own distinct language, Catalan. It's also fiercely independent. In 2014, a non-binding referendum had over 80% of Catalans voting to split from Spain. After Scotland, Catalonia is probably the most likely new state to emerge in the next few years. The region has set out its own ambitious plan for independence, which could see it break free from Spain as early as 2017. While many think this is an unrealistic date, the chances of an eventual split are astronomically high.
Number 6. Somaliland.
Somaliland is already a state, one of 3 entities making up modern-day Somalia. It declared its independence from Somalia way back in 1991. In the 25 years since, it has run free elections, kept its peace, created state infrastructure, including its own currency, and developed economically, even as Somalia disintegrated. Yet, to date, not a single country has ever recognized its existence. Despite this, Somaliland has a strong claim to statehood. It does business with the US, EU, UN, and the Arab League. It was an independent state once before. In 1960, it spent 5 days as a nation before voluntarily entering into a union with Italian Somaliland.
Number 5. The United States of Europe.
The treaty that created the modern EU called for an ever closer union. For many on the continent, this has been interpreted to mean building a United States of Europe with a common government, army, and currency. Although the financial crisis, Greek recession, and refugee crisis have temporarily made such plans unpopular, the project is still on track. With nationalism currently on the rise in Europe, the idea of an EU superstate has been placed on the back burner. Given how entwined many of mainland Europe's economies now are, sensible money would be on the ascension of the EU to full-blown nationhood before 2030.
Number 4. The Shetlands and Orkney.
With a combined population of less than 70,000, the far-flung Scottish islands of the Shetlands, Orkney, and the Outer Hebrides might seem like the last places on Earth to agitate for statehood. But with the threat of Scotland seceding from the UK, plans have been drawn up to potentially create 3 new microstates, or one federated collection of island states. In the event that Scotland held a second referendum and broke with the UK, though, Edinburgh would likely lay claim to the islands. At that point, leaders on the Shetlands, Orkney, and Outer Hebrides have indicated they might go fully independent.
Number 3. Unified Korea.
One is a hyper-capitalist tech utopia with some of the highest living standards in Asia. The other is an impoverished wasteland ruled by a paranoid dictator with a penchant for illegally detonating nuclear bombs. The idea that South Korea might one day reunify with North Korea seems like a pie-in-the-sky fantasy, yet it may not be as unlikely as you think. Reunification is official government policy in both North and South Korea. The cost of reunification would be enormous. West Germany took a massive hit in 1990 when it absorbed East Germany and is still paying for reunification today. South Korea would immediately have to shell out $1 trillion just to stop a reunified Korea from instantly collapsing. Yet the incentives are still there. The Economist has calculated that mining the North's rare minerals could give South Korea a $12 trillion return over the long run.
Number 2. Vojvodina and Republika Srpska.
The disintegration of Yugoslavia was one of the most complex breakups of a state in history. Over the course of 4 bruising wars and 1 insurrection, the former republic split into 7 different states. Yet the slow death of Yugoslavia may not be over. Yet there are 2 candidates left for independence, Vojvodina in Serbia and Republika Srpska in Bosnia-Herzegovina. Of these, the Republika Srpska is the most likely to become a state, and also the most likely to spark another Balkan war. At the conclusion of the Bosnian War, Bosnia was divided into Muslim and Croat Bosnia-Herzegovina and Serb Republika Srpska. Both parts of the nation fundamentally distrust one another. In December 2015, the Republika's nationalist Serb leader called for independence. A referendum is due to take place in 2018. Less explosive, Vojvodina in Serbia has been agitating for independence since 2009. While no referendums have been called, events could put a fire under Vojvodina's autonomous government. It's entirely possible we'll see the number of former Yugoslavia countries rise to 9 by 2026.
Number 1. East and West Libya.
Libya is in a state of chaos. Ever since Gaddafi was overthrown, the country has veered between extreme versions of what it used to be. Militias seized control of large areas. ISIS took over swaths of central territory. Multiple self-declared governments emerged, each claiming to be the legitimate one. Amid all this chaos, East and West Libya have begun to pull apart from one another. Right now, it looks extremely likely they will split into separate states. In Tripoli, a UN-backed government has managed to take control of much of the West. In Tobruk, a government loyal to renegade General Khalifa Haftar has got most of the East under control. Both governments claim to speak for Libya.
So I really hope you liked that video. If you did, please do give us a like below and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. And if you really like this video, why not share it with a friend? There are loads of social sharing options beneath this video, so use one of those if you feel inclined. Also, if you like this list about countries, check out some of our other country-based lists over there on the right. And thank you for watching.